Turns out, keeping up a sourdough starter is a lot of work. So I'm just gonna let this starve on the counter over here and we're gonna make a quick bread. Red ale carrot cake loaf. So we need a 1/3 cup of beer. And we have a couple options for getting a 1/3 cup out of this. So option 1 would be to pour a 1/3 cup of this into a little measuring thing and drink the rest. Option 2 would be to reduce it. If you reduce it down, it's gonna have a little bit more concentrated flavor, but I think it's really nice either way, so whatever you're feeling. So bring this up to a boil, and by a boil, I mean like as soon as it starts to bubble, you better turn it down, stir like mad. Reducing beer is like watching a toddler. The second you turn your back, it's gonna climb out of the pot, make a giant sticky mess all over everything that you get to spend an hour later cleaning up. Sober. We're gonna do the little wooden spoon trick here. This doesn't stop it from boiling over, it just buys you like an extra 3 seconds because the liquid can like climbs around the spoon instead of out of the pot. Oh, see, we got foam. Let's turn it down, play it safe. The first 10 minutes are the most challenging, and after that, someone will have won, and then you don't have to pay so much attention. Okay, so while that's reducing, we're gonna keep a very close eye on it, and we're gonna start to measure out our dry ingredients. So you need some all-purpose flour, the old measuring cups here. Oh, there she goes. There she goes. Oh no, take it off the heat. If it starts to climb up, off the heat it comes, and then back down like a dance, a really uncoordinated dance. So this recipe I ripped off from my mother's banana bread recipe. So I'm gonna recommend that you don't actually weigh the flour for this, because I can guarantee you no one who's ever made that recipe that's written like 16 times in my mom's cookbook has weighed the flour, and if you do, you're gonna probably have too little flour. So you gotta scoop into the bag. Do the big thing you're not supposed to do in baking and scoop on in. You need 1 cup, just get that kind of leveled off, plus 2/3 cup. You know, go dig for the 2/3, the one you never ever use. 1 2/3 cup all-purpose flour, a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. Sure you got the whole bag inside the bag thing going on here. Extra protection. A 1/2 teaspoon of coarse salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of some ground cardamom. I think cardamom is really nice for this recipe because if you use cinnamon or nutmeg, it just tastes like every single other loaf, sweet loaf bread that you've ever had in your whole life, and it drowns out the red ale flavor. So cardamom in. All right, now we're gonna sift this together, because when you are adding beer to bread, if you don't sift it, it becomes very dense. So we're gonna sift. You should probably leave the coarse salt out until after this, because it's definitely not gonna go through. Oh yeah, see, look, add all that salt. And I like to sift twice, just for good luck and style. More salt. Somehow it went through the first time, but not the second time. Surprise! All right, now that's it for your dry ingredients, so get rid of those. And then you need a medium-sized carrot and a rather large apple. Okay, so the red ale is still reducing. After that initial flare up, you know, I think we worked out who's the alpha and who's not, and I think it's under control. You know, it's over there, it's reducing, it's simmering away. So we're gonna move on to the wet ingredients, okay? This is not a rather large apple, but it's what we have, so that's what we're gonna use. You can also just use a cup of applesauce, and that's fine. I don't really know anyone that has applesauce in their house, or if they do, they never talk about it. I don't know, I think it carries a certain stigma with it. Maybe that's just me. So I'm gonna peel this carrot. You know it's a really good carrot when it's really lumpy and it's got lots of like crevasses and squiggles and little nubbins coming off it. And just lop off the ends, chunk it up, and you could just do this on a cheese grater if you wanted to, but I'm gonna use the food processor. So you just take that carrot and set it aside, because you don't want to mix the apple and the carrot yet. Scrape it out. You just need like approximately a cup. That's maybe a bit on the heavy side. That's okay. If there's a little bit of carrot left in here, no problem. Just leave it in. And we're gonna swap to a blade in the food processor because if you're using real apple instead of applesauce, I think processing it is really nice, and I'll show you why. If you care too much about trying to get your apple off in one big string, it never works. You have to figure out just the right amount of not giving a shit. We've achieved it. We gave just the right amount of shits. Look at that. Haha. I'm Meg Ryan now. Take your apple and just cut it off the core. You could grate it too with the grater attachment, but that seems like a lot of unnecessary work. We're just gonna throw it right on in there and we're gonna add a cup of sugar to that. And since you only have a 1/3 cup left, you can just do a 1/3 cup 3 times. Okay, and just give this a whirl. Scrape her down, take her for another spin. Throw a couple of eggs in. The ale's getting close. Okay, we need a 1/3 cup of oil. We'll use grapeseed today. Right on in there with the oil. That ale is looking pretty close. That looks to me like a 1/2 cup. Almost there. And so while you're at the most precarious part of reducing the ale, go ahead and get some softened butter. And we're just gonna butter the sides of the loaf pan. I just get right in there with my fingers. And so I like to use butter for the outside of the pan because it gets it nice and crispy. And then I like to use oil for the batter because it keeps the cake moist. But you know, whatever you got. All right, let's see where we're at with this ale. Well, I may have taken that just a titch too far. We'll find out. Oh, shoot, I did. So you take your 1/3 cup of perfectly reduced ale, make sure it's not too hot, and add it in. Not right on top of the eggs, obviously, if it's just come out of the pan. Nobody wants scrambled egg bread. And give that a whirl. Stick your finger right on in there and give it a taste. Oh, that's very nice. So now before you go mixing all your liquid ingredients in with the dry stuff, take your carrots. That's probably a little more than a cup, so we're gonna just leave some out, use that for something else. And just toss them in your flour so that they actually stay suspended in your loaf instead of all sinking to the bottom like a big sad puddle. And now we have a few optional add-ins. This is dealer's choice at this point, but I have some pumpkin seeds and some dried cranberries floating around in my pantry. I don't have raisins because I think raisins suck. Except, you know, if someone gave me like a proper warm oatmeal raisin cookie, I'd eat it. That's just good. 1/4 cup pumpkin seeds, 1/4 cup dried crayons, and then just give that a little toss in there, coat it in the flour too. I like to break up these cranberries. All right, on to the last step. In it goes. And scrape all that goodness off. No one left behind. Not a single sugar granule. So now you just stir this in just until it's mixed into your buttered loaf pan here. Give it a tap, get it distributed into a 350-degree oven for 40 to 50 minutes. It's done. That took about 55 minutes. It's springy on top. Should let that cool before you dive right into it. This is the 3rd loaf of this I've made this week. Oh, some leftover from the last loaf. Oh, delicious. It's almost done, so it's time to make another one. All right, y'all, support your local breweries if you're 21. If not, get out of here. That's Red Ale Carrot Cake. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe. Stay 6 feet away from other people. I'm gonna dive into this now, and I'm gonna hope that Tony does the dishes. What should we do? You know, in those entire 55 minutes, I didn't do any of the dishes.